Welcome to Authentic Living with Roxanne on Global Voice Radio. Join Roxanne Durhodge and her thought-provoking conversations, the catalyst to live your life to the fullest.
Hi everyone, it's Roxanne Durhodge. Thanks again for tuning in with Authentic Living with Roxanne. Today I have a special guest, Malcolm Sauders, and he's got the best title ever I think I've heard since I've been out there in the speaking world. It's a Hippie CEO. He's a owner and creative visionary of the Light Cellar, a successful superfood store. And I've tried some of the chocolates just recently in Cape Coral, and I loved it. I forgot which. Was there a cumin one or something like that?
I brought a whole mix of
yes,
chocolate. Yeah.
I think I tried the cumin one. And so he has an Elixir Bar and a teaching kitchen in Calgary, so where he works with healthy living. And for almost 10 years, Malcolm's purpose-driven and community-centered business has been a destination location for the health-conscious Calgarians. He pioneered the first Elixir Bar in Canada and is the author of the book Elixir Life, Modern Nutrition Meets Ancient Herbal Wisdom. Malcolm's success principles of peace, love, and the bottom line inspire and guide other business professionals towards a higher purpose and with passion and profits. So he works with entrepreneurs, business leaders, and change makers, leaves Malcolm sessions knowing how to do a business with heart and soul, but to also make money at the same time. So Malcolm, thanks so much for joining me today. What's it like out in Calgary today?
Oh, we got fresh new snow.
Wow, do you? Wow. Yeah, we're no snow here in Ontario, and I'm in Niagara Falls. It's sunny, but it's still cold out here too. So Malcolm, now I've had the privilege of hearing your story twice now, once in Ottawa and then 2 weeks ago in Cape Coral, but this concept of creating a business out of passion is definitely something that I know a lot of listeners are interested in. And so I'd like you to kind of tell people a bit about your story and kind of how you landed with such a kind of powerful and really a type of business that I'd never heard about before. So just start wherever you'd like about your journey.
Yeah, for sure. Well, my journey with food and nutrition as well as business are very interrelated. So I may as well start at the beginning, which was when I was 16, and I decided to become a vegetarian. I came home. It was Tuesday afternoon, and like any other, and Mom was in the kitchen. She was making dinner, and I came home and says, "Mom, I'm gonna become a vegetarian." She just looks at me and goes, "Well, you're still gonna eat this supper, aren't you?" And that was the beginning of my journey. At that time, it had nothing to do with food and nutrition. It was purely aspirations to try and help the world, right? As a young kind of idealist, someone that looked up to someone like David Suzuki. You hear all these doomsday reports around the environment and what's going on. And this was the only thing that I felt I had in my power to kind of do and make a difference in the world. And so knowing nothing about food and nutrition, just like, oh, sure, well, I'll just be a vegetarian. Literally went overnight, and it didn't go so well. To say I was a vegetarian is not quite accurate. I was more of a carbitarian. I knew how to make myself Pop-Tarts and grilled cheese sandwiches.
Oh, goodness.
Right? Breakfast cereals like Lucky Charms were one of my favorites.
Oh, my goodness.
Right? So it was, even though I jumped in, it was a bit of a wake-up call that, oh, there's something a little bit more to this whole food nutrition piece. And I was really committed to the ideals. So I started on my journey going down this rabbit hole of how to feed and nourish myself in a way that reflected how I wanted to be a part of the world and make an influence. There's that saying, we vote with our dollar, and I think no more so than our food dollar is really transformative to who we are as individuals, our own personal health, but also our communities and the ecology that we live in. So long story short, I'm not a vegetarian. it was more than 10 years. It was kind of exploring that world, and not to say there's anything wrong with that, but what I realized for me is it wasn't actually so much plants versus animals in that equation, right? You can see the documentaries. There's lots of books out there that kind of paint this picture, but it's only a half truth. And this is going to relate to the business part is with food nutrition is we've kind of gone wrong. And it's not, again, plants versus animals. It's more the scale. It's the industrialization of our food system, really where we've taken a wrong turn. So whether it's, industrial agriculture, like monocropping of soy and corn or wheat or whatever that is, that's not sustainable. That's not generative for our health, nor it is for the environment. And there's this trend for moving, as we say, from Wall Street to Main Street, this kind of relocalization of the food system, because we realized we're like, oh, this isn't working. And people can tell, right? It's like there's this movement to farmers markets. People want that local. They want that fresh. And you can taste it. You can experience it. So you can't say it's just plants and animals. It's food's coming out of two different systems, and experientially, when you taste it, you know the difference. We've all had that experience of pulling a carrot out of the ground or, an apple off the tree, and there's just something so good about it. And so we're being led by our taste buds to find more authentic food, right? That has character, that has quality, and therefore nutrition. If we were to analyze that scientifically, we'd see, okay, it's got higher vitamins, minerals, etc. But we all have that there. So how does that also relate to business in the world of of money and work? Well, again, I think it's this industrialization of our workplaces, and I don't want to say that all industrialization is all bad, but when we go for this scale like we've done in food, maximizing profits, so on and so forth, I think we're coming to the realization of like, oh, that doesn't feel good, right? Sure, we have all this stuff, but we're missing out on deeper elements. And so for me, as a teenager on this path, I had these expectations of my father, go to school, get a good job so you can get a good, pay, etc. And I didn't want to do that. I felt kind of imprisoned by this idea of a Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Really wanted to live my passions, but I didn't know how to make money. So I kind of gave up on that idea. I gave away my stuff. I hit the road. I went hitchhiking. I visited all kinds of different meditation centers and ashrams, and this kind of like this spiritual journey to figure out who I was and how I wanted to be in the world, which at that time was more escaping it, right? I didn't want a job, and it wasn't that I wasn't afraid of work. It was that I didn't want to trade time for money. And I was done with that. I felt like I'd been imprisoned in school in suburban Calgary, kind of forced to do things that I didn't want to do. And I put in my time. And when I got out, I was like, okay, now it's my time. And I did do a degree. I came out of college with jazz music studies, and quickly realized that wasn't quite going to pay the bills as much as I loved it. So I followed this path of just kind of almost retreating from society, and lived in yoga centers and ashrams. I would work in the kitchen just to exchange my time and energy for my basic needs. So I'd volunteer in the kitchen, spend time in the garden. And that was really transformative and really connective to, again, this idea of good whole food. And that kept me going down further on my path on how to learn how to nourish myself. And there was a stage where I'd been meditating a lot, anywhere from 4 to 14 hours a day. And this is kind of something you'll know about me. When I get into something, I really get into it. I just immerse myself. So, with vegetarian, it was 100%. And then I was into music, and that's all I did was eat, breathe, live music every day. And then I got into meditation, and that's all it was. And, inspired by a lot of the traditions that I was immersed in, kind of fantasized about this idea of becoming a monk. But what I was learning, and I can joke about it now, but
it was real, is what you're saying.
Right? Yeah. I mean, you read books of all these yogis, and it's like, oh yeah, this is the life. And what was interesting that, yoga came to the West, kind of, late 1800s, really the early 1900s. And a lot of them that were coming, so there's a few names like Paramahansa Yogananda. He wrote the book, Autobiography of a Yogi, one of the first that helped spur on this movement. And at that time, he predicted, yoga is going to spread, it's going to move out. And, even Buddhism, these different kind of Eastern philosophical approaches, for them coming to the West and spreading, they had the sense that it was going to grow, and it was going to be less about how it was in the past and more this kind of monastic tradition and really integrating into everyone's day. I mean, and we can see that, right? There's yoga centers on every corner, and and there was a sense that it was more about integrating it into one's life. And there's that saying, there's yoga on the mat and yoga off the mat. And it's all fine and wonderful to be, peaceful, doing your meditation, and then you get up and, and then you get angry at the traffic or whatever, right? So how can we bring it into our day? And there's more impact, be in the world to change the world, was the message that I was getting. And so I still didn't yet know how to be in the world, but I was almost forced to, again, not forced, but in a natural just flow of my path. I had met my soon-to-be wife at that time. We traveled around India, Nepal, and we came back home pregnant. And it was like, okay, I'm gonna be the provider now. And so I was at this kind of crossroads. I'd been really deep into the world of food and nutrition. That was really a passion. Not only studying kind of like the theory of it, but also preparing it, having spent time in kitchens. And so I was kind of at a crossroads of okay, I'm going to go back to school. Do I take nutrition or do I go to baking school? And I chose the path of nutrition, and that led to one thing to another. And out of that, we started a little store in our basement. Long time ago, I started making chocolates at that time. I had a real passion for teaching, coming out of nutrition. I knew I didn't want to sit down and do consults one-on-one, but I wanted to share what I'd learned, share my journey. Again, because I saw food as so transformative to one's personal self, but also to our communities and the environment. And so started sharing that through teaching. And kind of again this idea of reclaiming skills. So again, in that kind of industrialization, a lot of people don't realize, but the whole women's liberation movement, part of that was spurred on by food manufacturers. After the war, there was this message that was put out, and I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong. It was hey, you don't need to be a slave to the kitchen. I mean, let's face it, kitchen work for millennia before that had been a bit of a drudgery. And so it's wonderful that we have all these modern innovations, but we didn't yet have the experience of what is it like to do that wholesale, everything, right? Where we outsource all of our food preparation. And as a culture, we took that on, right? TV dinners, canned food, this, that, the next, industrialized processed food. And we felt the consequences and the effects of that. And now there's this kind of recircling back to the art and the craft of making food. And we have to relearn. I mean, there I was, just a young man leaving home on my own, having no idea how to prepare food and take care of myself. And there's a lot of people in that way. We've relied too much on government and industry to kind of set those standards. But really, it was the role of culture, and it was the role of home. And we're beginning to kind of circle back to that. And so I love being a part of that movement, empowering people with what I call like the how and the why of food and nutrition, because, what we get in Canada, and I'm sure it's the same in the US as well. I mean, it's ridiculous. 4 food groups. That's not useful at all.
So, what I'm interested in is when you look at that whole concept elixir, and I grew up in Trinidad and Tobago, where cooking was always, it's how we spent time and communicated. So the difference that I see in Canada is that what happens is someone's coming over, you prepare a meal, and then you sit down. In Trinidad, what they do and continue to do when you visit is that you're part of the making of the food, which is a different concept. So it becomes more, connection, really, if you think about it. And so it's something that I was always very accustomed to. It was like, oh, you kind of go and, in Canada with my in-laws, it would be, you'd kind of sit at the table and it would be prepared and you'd be served but in Trinidad, it would be different. You'd kind of come and then, things would be in process. And what would naturally happen is you'd kind of learn, which is some of what you said that didn't happen with your upbringing in Calgary. When you look at the concept of Elixir, and I want you to explain that concept, because I think myself, I find that very, very fascinating and real, and it's something that I try to do as much as I can. But that whole concept of feeding your soul through what you eat, can you tell people a little bit more about that whole concept and how you kind of think about nutrients and how you think about preparation? Because I think all of us need to learn more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea of an elixir, it's a delivery system. So I teach different mediums through which you can get, good nutrition that you can add into your life. I used to be a little bit more extreme in terms of, okay, you got to eat this way and do this type of diet and, flip your life upside down. No longer do that. Do what you do, and it's much easier and better to add things in. And that's why I'm into this idea of superfoods, which it gets tossed around kind of in marketing, but really to me, superfoods, outside of that, they're authentic foods. They have a nutrient density. They've often been revered by cultures throughout time. Coconut could be considered a superfood. Moringa, baobab. So there's that long-standing cultural use. And there's a nutrient density that's unique, extraordinary. And again, it's also the system it comes from. Maybe it's wild, maybe it's small scale grown, versus again, industrially produced. And so it's focusing on unique foods, and Elixir is just another delivery system or medium for it. So there's many different definitions of what an elixir is or could be. Primarily it's in a liquid form or preparation, and I define it as an alchemical vehicle for the delivery of food and medicine. So we have this phrase in our society, our culture, let food be thy medicine, medicine be thy food. This is supposedly what modern medicine is based on, the father Hippocrates. However, it's very rarely actually practiced.
Right.
And yeah. So another thing I kind of, which ties into elixirs that I got into, is when I was studying nutrition, both kind of informally and formally, I had other friends that were studying herbalism. And I saw them and I was like, okay, that's their path. They're going to be herbalists. I'm doing nutrition. I'm going to be a nutritionist. And I didn't really open myself up to herbs, nor did I, of course, have a background from family or even culture, society, where herbs and spices were valued and used. So I was very kind of cut off from that world. And eventually later that started to seep in this whole world of herbalism, which has always been throughout every culture around the world. It's been the people's medicine, the folk medicine. And I'm not saying it has to be chosen above and beyond modern medicine or pharmaceutical medicine, not at all. They can be complementary, and I think it's a real opportunity for us to again reclaim that wisdom, bring it back in. And so elixirs for me are that combination of the best in modern nutrition as well as ancient herbal wisdom, and elixirs are this delivery system. You can bring it together. So I like to give the example of what is an elixir. Well, imagine it's your morning coffee mixed with your smoothie. Now, not literally, because that would be horrible, right?
A lot of people are trying to think, how would you do that?
Yeah. So if we think about it more functionally, so a lot of us have, the morning coffee or the afternoon tea, which are herbs, right? Both of those, that's herbalism in its kind of basic essence. So they have the function of kind of, helping raise up our energy, stimulating us, getting us on track, the focus. That's the function that they play. Whereas a smoothie is more about, getting in the nutrients, right? It's that grab and go smoothie. Okay, boom, I've got my meal for the day. I'm ready to go. I'm supercharged. I'm nourishing myself. Whereas an elixir is something that you can prepare that functionally is both. So you can have the depth and the nutrition of a smoothie, but you also have that herbal element. And it goes far, far, far beyond just coffee and tea, but can include that where it gives you more of that functional benefit. So I've got this phrase you heard me share it in Ottawa when you saw me speak. There's an elixir for that. So
I love that, because I remember when I saw you in Cape Coral, I said, "You're the Elixir guy."
Totally. So this was where it becomes like purely like customizable to, you know, whatever, however your day is going, right? If you need that energy, if you need that pick me up, if you got something like, you know, maybe you're even, it could be going to the office, or it could be, okay, I've got a big event. I've got a race or a workout or whatever it is, you can customize an elixir to support you for that day. Or maybe it's the complete opposite. It's the end of the day and it's been full on, it's been stressful. You need something to kind of bring the energy down, calm you, relax you, and it becomes about this intentional, customizable form of nourishment.
So is that something that you teach? Do you do things online? Like, for instance, like I know sometimes when I see clients, I see 5-6 clients in a row, right?
Yeah.
So by the time I'm done, you know, I've been speaking for 6 hours straight, kind of. And of course, mentally, you know, of course you're giving, so you're drained. You know, you don't have the opportunity to be able to eat in there, you know, so walking around with something, like you said, with a combination to help me replenish, maybe I won't be able to eat, but would that be something that I could do an online course or coach with you to learn about? Because I think most people want to learn, Malcolm. I don't know if you would agree with that. I mean, I'm pretty good at eating, but there's so much I'm sure that I can learn. But the average person listening, if they wanted to learn kind of these combination, double hitters for elixirs, where could they go to be able to learn about that kind of stuff?
Yeah, a really good question. And I'll just kind of answer that comment you're mentioning about we have to pick and choose. I'm not saying it's about us doing it all, going back to preparing every single meal, every single snack and juice, you know, from scratch. There's going to be, everyone's in a different position with different lifestyles. However, we need to pick something that we can do ourselves. It's incredibly empowering and incredibly nourishing. So whether that's getting into a realm of fermentation and creating your own ferments, maybe it's creating these elixirs, however it is, some element, there's real value there. So I've got a series of YouTube channels called Easy Upgrades, and it's through my company Light Cellar. So it's LIGHTCELLAR. And we're adding more and more all the time. And the idea of an easy upgrade is things that you can learn how to make that's easy just to add into your day, to kind of upgrade your day. And it ranges all the way from, let's say, gluten-free breads and pancakes to juices to elixirs. And so I'm adding to that constantly every week, and one can explore all the different topics. And we're just about to get into an elixir course. We've been working on the back end of the scenes, put that together, and that'll be on the tail end of the book. So here's the book that you had mentioned. Elixir.
Awesome. And that can be, where can they buy that, Malcolm? Can they buy it on your site, or can they buy it on Amazon?
Yeah, I'm just in the process of uploading it to Amazon. So for now, it's go to thelightcellar.ca, and there you'll be able to purchase that book. That's the first book in the world printed on elixirs. So this concept's just coming out. I like to give people perspective. I mean, smoothies, they've been around for a long time, right? They played a really good role. They have a functional benefit in our day-to-day lives. Cold pressed juices is something else that's kind of like come out. I think it's trending a little bit right now. The idea of bone broths. There's these different delivery systems that are coming out, and elixirs are just beginning to get out there. So it's almost like where smoothies were, however many years ago, when we're just getting on that train. And elixirs are here to stay. People are just loving them because of how dynamic and functional and beneficial they are. And you really can just fit them into any part of your day for any benefit that you need.
So this is the part of your story that I find fascinating, right? And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that don't fit a certain mold. They have a passion, like you said, and you were kind of growing up traditional in North America. You do the traditional routes. Some of us I took the traditional route because I'm a pretty traditional person. But you had a vision and you did not get deterred from it. And now you've built a $2 million business. So I would love for you to kind of share with people listening what you did to really allow the things that needed to stay, to not detract you off that vision, to be able to get here today, to be able to speak to me about something so powerful.
Yeah, I think first, and thank you for that. So I think first and foremost is, having a sense of who you are, how you want to show up in the world, and not letting fear or doubt or uncertainty get in the way. Just know that you can do it. We're in a time now more than ever where we can, like the level of kind of point of entry, it's, I'm not sure if you hear this term, like zero marginal cost, right? To be able to get in and be your own business, develop it, is more accessible, more available than ever before. And it's also what people want. We've gone from, large corporations, which obviously still exist and still will exist, but the economy has shifted. There's been a realignment. We're going from, the big generals like General Motors, General Mills, right? Again, that huge kind of industrial type scale where people really they're seeking more authentic, they're seeking relationships. And there's this relocalization of the economy, most pronounced, as I was mentioning, with the food industry, but it's happening across the board. People are looking for that craft, looking for that authenticity. So the opportunity is there. Again, zero marginal cost, and it's what people want. They want those individual relationships. So it's really knowing that opportunity is there. Don't getting into the fear that you can build it, you can create it. All the tools, everything is there for you. And it's just your journey of getting really clear on who you are, what you want to show up with and contribute. And it's really about solving problems, right? I used to have this negative view of money, like, oh, money's evil, money's bad. It's what's wrong with the world. And it's like, no, money is neutral. Business is neutral. It's a tool, and we can use it for good or for bad. And really, at the end of the day, exchanges, it's all about value, right? So solving people's problems, bringing value, creating value in the world, and you can receive money in exchange for that. And along that journey in your path, it's really about developing yourself. So I think one of the biggest things that I've done is it's been self-study. It's been create your own adventure. There is no manual. You have to go out and create it. So it's taking courses, it's apprenticing, it's reading books, it's doing everything. At each step, you're like, okay, I got to figure this out, right? I mean, you likely, someone watching has their passion, they have their craft. Okay, how do you learn how to monetize that? And it's creating your own MBA. I mean, yes, you can go to university, you can do that, but it's so much more accessible and I think real to just create it yourself. And there's so many resources, from online courses to books to you name it, that one can go out there. And if you're still, obviously there's your craft, the art that you're involved in. So that continuing always to develop that. And I'm a really big believer in this idea of the apprenticeship and working in direct mentorship. Doing that, and then also the business side, how to run a business. It totally changes as soon as you start adding one employee, and that grows. I mean, I'm up over 20 now myself, and that's been a whole interesting journey and dynamic. But you just take it, one step at a time. You got to have one foot in your field and in your craft, and then the other on the business side, learning these things as you come up. And some of the things that you're not going to like. I mean, I resist getting into the details of numbers and this and that, but you need to. And it's very important, at least in the beginning, to get a sense of it, get an understanding of it, so that you've done it, you've been through it, and then as soon as you can, you delegate it, right? You don't want to delegate it immediately, because then you don't have an understanding. You don't know how it's going to work. You're not going to be able to have those conversations and relate to the people that you're working with. So get into it, have at least a basic understanding of it, and then as soon as you can, delegate it so you can get on to the next task and keep growing yourself and your business.
And I'm sure along the way, you probably had deterrents or things that kind of could have deterred you from that authenticity that you're talking about. How did you deal with those detractors along the way? Or how did you kind of gauge, because when you're starting, like you're talking, you can have an MBA, then you can go to nutrition school, then you can go to become a herbologist, now you're speaking, because that's how you and I met through our speaking coach, and the speaking organization. It's a lot. So how do you stay grounded and authentic to Malcolm, it's yourself, your core self, and kind of, continue to stay connected to that vision and where it's going to take you next?
Yeah, great question. I love that. And I think the single biggest tool we have in life is our own intuition, our heart, right? Following our hearts, following our guts, and not only to kind of keeping true to yourself, but also it's amazing how powerful it is in business as a tool for decision making. Really tuning in, checking in, and that might sound kind of woo-woo, but we've all got it. We all have that power of intuition, that feeling. It's like it's exactly when you meet someone, right? When you meet someone, you're like, you can get a sense of like, oh wow, like love this person, love their energy. You want to get to know them. And others, you're like, yeah, something was kind of off there, right? It's just like, I'm not sure about that person. That we have all those experiences all the time. We can walk into a restaurant and go, I like this place. Or it's like, no, let's maybe go somewhere else. That's intuition. That you're going to have that all the time. That could be, again, a proposal, a direction. And you need to be able to distinguish with, okay, that's just fear. I don't know if I can really do that. And okay, that's going to take a lot, but that feels good. That's the direction I want to go. And it's that patience and that's persistence and following your heart.
And I'm going to assume your meditation also allows you to, or quiet space. And I know that's something that I have to do often with my life, like your life. You know, we're busy and we're, you know, with when we were away on, you know, on the weekend with Cape Coral, and we're busy all the time. And after that, I just needed the quiet space to really kind of realign it. I'm going to assume that that's something that you do often with running the multi-million business that you do.
Yeah, totally. So for me, that's, you know, having that quiet moments, it's getting out in nature. And for me, kind of one of my hobbies is I love going out in nature and like picking food, finding food, learning what's around me. So that's a really kind of grounding practice that I utilize. But you're absolutely right. You need that.
So learning what that's about for yourself becomes core, I would think, as you go along your journey. Now, you work with entrepreneurs and business owners also to help them connect to that authentic space and to create vision and start or grow businesses. Is that correct, Malcolm?
Yeah, so that's been a new venture. It's something that I've done just naturally. I guess maybe there's been a bit of a, you know, having seen, you know, my journey and seeing others in a similar position, just wanting to help and help people down their journey. And so 2018 is really a year I'm much more stepping off into that path. The food nutrition business is great. It's wonderful. I keep pouring my heart into that and speaking on those topics, but now I'm focusing on empowering others, this business side, because again, like I said, you know, we vote with our dollar. The food and nutrition dollar is huge, massive for personal and kind of planetary change. But business, I see as the number one force of good. Something before, after may come later. But right now, it's our best tool. And I want to see more and more people, you know, live their authentic self and align their purpose and their passion with profits. And I want to share what I've learned in my journey and how to overcome those things, the fear, the uncertainty, the doubt. Again, it's to create your own adventure, choose your path. We got to create it as we walk it. And so just giving back and helping others on their journey is what I'm really looking forward to in my future.
Now you have a course coming up. Is that what I think I saw online? So why don't you tell the listeners about it and how they can get connected? Because I think, you know, if this is the path, I know that a lot of the things that you're talking about, I have been through. I continue to struggle with. The next step. Every time you take a step up in business, it's always like there's so many variables that you need to weed through, you know, to be able to get to that next level. So where can they find the course and how can they sign up, or even be able to, I'm not sure if you do one-to-one consulting, if that's an option for people also.
Yeah, no, great. And I'll just first comment on what you're saying there, that, you know, when you choose this path, it is the ultimate in personal development, right? As you move your business forward, you have to grow, you have to evolve. And I think that's our only limit. It's our only ceiling. The level of our success is the level that we're able to grow ourselves as an individual, as a being. And I see, you know, money not as the goal, but as a measure, as a reflection, right? That's the whole idea of the bottom line. It's a reflection of how well I've stepped up to help and serve the world. And yeah, it's never ending, but it's a good, rewarding journey for sure. So April 20th is my kind of debut in Calgary, Alberta at the Cardell Theatre. From 7 to 8:30. It's called Peace, Love, and the Bottom Line, Business Success Secrets from a Hippie CEO. And so I expect many more events to follow around the country, but we're going to do the first one here in Calgary and be sharing my journey. A little bit we've touched upon here, but going to get more deeper into the nitty-gritty of some of those processes one can use. I've given myself this title, Creative Visionary. I've had it for a number of years. We're going to break down, what does that mean? What does it mean to be a visionary? Because oftentimes we're sold that you have to have a crystal clear vision of what it is you're going to do. And this would be advice for those that are watching. It unfolds. You create it, create your vision as you go. Everything is a prototype, and so to move through those fear, that uncertainty, that doubt, I've got a methodology I teach to get people started and to bring their vision and their reality to life, even if they don't know what it is yet. You have to start with just whatever it is, a little golden thread that's inside that says, this could be good, this is the way. So you start with that and you move it forward a little bit by little bit. So I'll be breaking that down.
Well, what an amazing journey. You go from Pop-Tarts to Elixir. So think about that. And all the bumps along the way, and to be able to teach that to others, Malcolm, what a gift that is to be able to share. And so many mistakes like I have made along the way, and 5-7 years into it, to be able to look back and go, well, had I known this, I might have, so being able to teach others so that they can maybe have a bit more of a concerted sense of what they're up against. And of course, it's a lot of hard work. You know that. I know that. But when you're passionate about what you do, like obviously you are, then it becomes like play. Yes, it's a lot of long hours at play, but it is still work. But you're giving back to the world in a way, and you're teaching people the value of food. And if we learn the basics around food, that we don't have to do all those other things that like supplements, and because we can get so much of it from our food. But you're right, with industrialization, and we've gotten so far away from some of the core basics to preparing just good, nutritious things that and the average young person growing up needs to learn it, so that when they go off into the world, that they can, it doesn't take a lot, but it takes obviously a bit of knowledge to be able to, not eat at the hotel, at the university cafeterias and those types of things, which we know how much complaints that we hear from a lot of the young people going off to school. So Malcolm, this has been such an honor. Is there anything else that you'd like to share before I close off with you today?
Yeah, I just want to thank you for your time and for creating this call, to putting it out there, sharing. And if anybody has any, comments, reflections, feedback they want to send to me, they can reach me through the Light Cellar. My email is Malcolm, MALCOLM @thelightcellar.ca. You mentioned about coaching, consulting. It's not yet there. I know that's going to be happening in the future. I mean, that could be a month, that could be a year. Again, I'm on my new path. I'm almost in this new startup phase, starting with the keynotes and the seminars, sharing this message. And I know it's going to grow and evolve. And that's really the space I'm in, is of service, and how I want to have impact and help make the world a better place is through the food, nutrition, and peace, but also now empowering others on their journey to self-realize through business and make the world a better place. So thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and even more so, health is an authenticity, and living your purpose is something that I know I talk about weekly. But again, Malcolm is an example of someone that's actually doing it through his passion. So in reference to authenticity, I would love, if you're interested in any kind of knowledge about that you connect with me at roxannedurhodge.com /blueprints, where you can actually get involved with a course, an online course that would teach you some of those basics around authenticity. So thanks again, Malcolm, and until I connect with you next week, we'll chat with you soon.
All right.
Take care.